Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? This time we're heading back to the Appalachian frontier during the Revolutionary War.
Ooh, sounds intense.
It is. We're checking out this YouTube video called Appalachia's Deadliest, the Hannon Family. It's by the Appalachian storyteller.
hmm
And let me tell you, get ready for a wild ride.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Frontier life, huh? Always makes you think about how tough those folks were.
No kidding. Imagine 1776, but not like the fancy version from the history books, right?
Hmm.
We're talking the frontier, where every day was a fight for survival.
Yeah, the real deal. And the Appalachian Mountains were like this dividing line, weren't they? Colonists on one side, Native Americans on the other.
Exactly. And then you throw in this thing called the Proclamation Line of 1763.
Oh yeah, King George III trying to keep the peace by telling the colonists, nope, no settling west of the Appalachians, like that was gonna fly with folks eager for land.
Huh. As if. So what happens?
Yeah.
More tension,
Right.
illegal settlements popping up all over.
You got it. And the Cherokee, they were especially determined to protect their land. Guys like Dragon Canoe, a young warrior who wasn't about to back down.
So you've got this powder keg ready to blow. And right in the middle of it all, the Hannon family.
Their story is like a snapshot of frontier life, you know? All the hardship, the constant struggle, the threat of violence always hanging over them.
I was reading about the father, William Hannon. As a kid, he survived an Indian raid that wiped out his whole family.
Wow. Just wow. Can you imagine the trauma? Makes you wonder how he ever had the courage to settle down and start his own family after something like that.
Right. It's incredible. He ends up on the North Fork of the Packlet River in North Carolina. 9 kids.
9 kids, talk about a full house. And their location, even though it was supposed to be on the safe side of that proclamation line, put them right on the edge of conflict.
Yeah, talk about living on the edge. And then, to make matters worse, the spring of 1776, Mrs. Hannon dies shortly after giving birth to their 9th child.
Oh man, that's awful. Losing your mother right after being born. And for the rest of the family, trying to cope with that grief while still having to, keep going, plant crops, just survive.
It's hard to fathom. And on top of everything, there's this creepy detail about the kids noticing crows acting strangely.
Crows.
Yeah, their grandfather always said that was a sign Native Americans were nearby.
Like a bad omen. It's fascinating how much people on the frontier relied on those kinds of signs. Reading nature, paying attention to folklore.
It was their way of surviving, right? But William, he dismissed the kids' worries. He figured the proclamation line would keep them safe.
Sadly, he was wrong. What happened next? It's a harsh reminder of just how brutal things could get on the frontier.
The Cherokee warriors,
Yeah.
they ambushed the family as they were coming back from the fields. William was killed instantly, scalped. His body. Well, the details are pretty gruesome.
It's tough to read about, for sure. But it's important to understand the context, right? Scalping was a reality of warfare back then. And the Cherokee, they saw this as a fight for their very survival. Their homeland was being taken from them.
It's hard to wrap your head around the desperation and fear on both sides. And in the midst of all this horror, 3 of the youngest Hannon children managed to escape.
Unbelievable. Those poor kids. Can you imagine witnessing something like that?
10-year-old Edwin hid in a hollow log. 7-year-old Winnie huddled in a laurel thicket holding the newborn baby. They watched as their home burned.
It's a testament to human resilience that they even survived that night. The courage it must have taken.
It's hard to even comprehend. Their story is both inspiring and heartbreaking. And we're left with this question. What happened to them next? How do you even begin to heal from something like that?
We'll dig into that next time. This story, it really stays with you.
It does. And it makes you appreciate how fortunate we are today. To feel safe, to have our families close, we often take those things for granted.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? The big events, the wars, the battles, they get all the attention. But it's these smaller stories, the ones about survival, that really stick with me.
Absolutely. I mean, we left off with those 3 kids, orphaned, having seen unimaginable things, taken in by Colonel Earl and his wife. But how do you even begin to piece your life back together after something that horrific? Did they ever find peace?
Well, according to what we're reading here, Colonel Earl and his wife, they did their best to provide a loving home. But for Edwin, that trauma, it lingered. Nightmares, reliving the attack constantly, losing his family.
That's got to be so heavy to carry. And back then, I mean, they didn't really talk about mental health, did they? I wonder how many others suffered in silence.
Good point. Nowadays, we know trauma can have these long-lasting effects. But back then, it wasn't something people understood or even talked about. It's pretty amazing that those kids found a way forward at all.
It really is. And what about Winnie? It says here she never married. Could that be connected to what happened, do you think?
It's certainly possible. Trauma affects everyone differently. Some people withdraw, become afraid of getting close to anyone. Others find comfort in connection. Who knows what Winnie went through, but yeah, that massacre probably shaped her whole life.
It makes you appreciate what we have, doesn't it? Feeling safe at home, being able to trust people, just sleeping peacefully at night.
Absolutely. The Hannon family lost everything. Their home, parents, siblings. It's just unimaginable.
And then there's baby Elizabeth. She was just an infant when it happened. The source doesn't say much about her at all.
Yeah, no clues about what became of her. Hopefully she found a good life with Colonel Earl and his wife. But her story being lost like that, it makes you think about all the other untold stories from that time. So many families torn apart, their lives disrupted, and then just forgotten.
You know what struck me? The Hannon family's homestead. It's a bed and breakfast now. The Mimosa Inn. People go there to relax, totally unaware of what happened on that ground.
It is kind of strange, isn't it? A place of peace built on, well, violence. How many other places have those hidden layers of history just beneath the surface?
Like an invisible tapestry, right? Connecting us to the past, sometimes with dark threads, painful threads.
Makes you think about how we choose to remember things. Or forget them. The triumphs and victories are easy to focus on, but the losses, the trauma, that stuff makes us uncomfortable.
But those stories matter too, don't they? They show us the real cost of what we do. The violence, the hatreds. We got to learn from that and try to build a better future.
Exactly. The Hannon family story, as tragic as it is, it's not unique. Countless families went through the same kind of thing back then. Their stories deserve to be remembered, not to glorify the violence, but to honor their strength, and to remind us how fragile peace really is.
Makes you wonder how many other stories are hidden right around us in the landscapes we live in. What could we learn if we just listened to those whispers from the past?
Now that's a thought. We're always rushing, focused on now and what's next. But the past is always there, shaping everything. Maybe if we listened to those stories, even the hard ones, we'd understand ourselves better and our place in the world.
Like a treasure hunt. But instead of gold, we're finding meaning, connection to the people who came before. You know, it's kind of eerie, right? This place where such a terrible thing happened is now a peaceful getaway. Really makes you think about all the history hidden under our feet.
Yeah, for sure. Like, what if we knew the full story of every place we visited? Would we experience things differently?
I was just thinking that. Like, imagine walking through a park, all happy and carefree, and then realizing, whoa, this was a battlefield. Or shopping in a mall that used to be a Native American village.
Whoa, yeah. Like
Yeah.
we're surrounded by ghosts we can't even see.
Exactly. And it wouldn't all be, dark and depressing. What if that cafe you love was a speakeasy back in the day?
Mm-hmm.
Or your street was part of some historic parade road?
It'd be like unlocking these secret stories about our own towns and cities.
All right, like a treasure hunt for history. I bet there's an app for that. Point your phone at your yard and see what it looked like 100 years ago. Or even 1,000.
Oh, that would be so cool. Imagine students learning history like that, walking through a Civil War battlefield virtually, or being right there when they signed the Declaration of Independence.
And not just for students, right?
Yeah.
Anyone could use it. It'd be a way to connect with our past, understand what our ancestors went through. Like, wow, look at how far we've come.
Yeah, we're all part of something bigger than ourselves. This story that stretches across generations, And the more we understand it, the more we realize how strong and resilient people can be.
So we've learned about the Hannon family, their tragic story, and what life was like on the frontier. But now it's your turn. What about your neighborhood, your town? What hidden histories are out there just waiting to be discovered?
Mhm.
Was there a frontier settlement nearby? Did a battle happen where that shopping mall is now?
Do some digging, talk to older folks, check out your local historical society. You never know what you might find. You might even uncover a story as intense as the Hannon family massacre.
Every place has a story. We just have to listen. That's it for this deep dive, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep that spirit of discovery alive.